There's a dude named Brett Weinstein. He worked at Evergreen College, I believe, as like a professor, and they were trying to do a little, I don't know, demonstration or whatever. Every year, they get all of the black members of the college to like go on a trip together, like a field trip or whatever, to show the white people what it would be like to not have any black people near them, not have any black friends or whatever else. And then one year, if I remember correctly, the school said they wanted to do a program where for one day only the black students show up to school and the white students don't. It's just kind of trying to demonstrate, what value people add to the community or whatever. And Brett Weinstein was a professor there and he refused to not come to school that day. And he got, I don't know if he got fired or he quit or I don't know what happened. But anyway, he got super famous for it. And now he's like a right-wing influencer, like anti-vax, hard right nutcase, like RFK Jr. level nutcase influencer, which is crazy because he's like an evolutionary biologist or something. He's just off the rails insane. No other evolutionary biologists agree with him on literally anything. It's just like shameless lying that he does. Well, he has a brother named Eric Weinstein, this guy on screen, and he's also pretty far right. I want to listen to what he had to say to this dude, Chris Williamson. They talk to each other. Let's give this a listen, and hopefully they don't hit me with copyright.
When we spoke at the start of the year, I said it was way too close to November to switch anybody out. Turns out that I was wrong.
By the way, this is September 2nd, 2024. It's before the election. And we get some fascinating glimpses into what they believed was going to happen in the election.
You said, what are the odds that Joe Biden has a debilitating event between now and November, including death? So he runs a 1 in 20 chance of dying in any given year or above, that I don't think you know whether he's even going to make it to November. Debilitating event could have been a debilitating public event.
No, it couldn't. He was talking about debilitating events because he's old. What a dirty, underhanded way to frame this, really? He's a mathematician, Eric Weinstein is, so he was, I don't know, trying to create statistics or whatever, right? But he's basing it off of just the fact that old people are old. That's it. Joe Biden is very clearly fine, or he was at the end of his presidency. Yeah, he had a minute where he couldn't think of a word, at the debate. Couldn't come up with it. I have that problem all the time. His went on longer than I would have, but he's like 80, okay? Yeah, I don't even think he's quite 80 when this happened. Anyway, Trump is older than Biden. Now, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. Trump is older than Biden now when that debate happened, to my knowledge. Or maybe they're pretty close. The point is that Biden was fine. And this whole, he's a crumbling mess, going to fall apart at any second thing, that's just, it was pure, unadulterated propaganda. I'm not giving it to them. Nonsense. Biden was fine. Like, would I want somebody younger? Of course I would. But he was perfectly capable.
Purposely left it vague, and I didn't say the other part of it, which I now feel comfortable saying, which is I don't know whether Donald Trump will be allowed to become president.
Dude, bro, are you shitting me right now? Really? You got to be joking.
What do you mean by that?
I think that there's a remarkable story, and we're in a funny game, which is, are we allowed to say what that story is? Because to say it, to analyze it, to name it, is to bring it into view. I think we don't understand why the censorship is behaving the way it is. We don't
What censorship? What are you talking about?
Understand why it's in the shadows. We don't understand why our news is acting in a bizarre fashion. So let's just set the stage, given that that was in February. There is something that I think Mike Benz has just referred to as the rules-based international order. It's an interlocking series of agreements, tacit understandings, explicit understandings, clandestine understandings about how the most important structures keep the world free of war and keep markets open.
Oh my God, he's constructing an argument for a deep state. Give it a rest.
And there has been a system in place, whether understood explicitly or behind the scenes or implicitly, that says that the purpose of the two American parties is to prune the field of populist candidates so that whatever two candidates exist in a face-off are both acceptable to that world order.
So he's fabricating this whole thing and just claiming that it's real and it's factual.
Are both the field of populist candidates, so that whatever two candidates exist in a face-off are both acceptable to that world order.
He's claiming that there is a deep state that controls everything and makes sure that all the candidates are fine, they're going to work with them and all that stuff. Nonsense. The American people want somebody that is not a complete fucking idiot. Well, we've come to find that I guess they're okay with complete idiots also. The problem is Donald Trump won the election. How can he sit here and say this? I mean, it makes him look like a complete fool, in my opinion.
So what you're trying to do from the point of view, let's take it from the point of view of, let's say, the State Department, the intelligence community, the Defense Department, and major corporations that have to do with international issues, from arms trade to, food. They have a series of agreements that are fragile and could be overturned if a president entered the Oval Office who didn't agree with them, and the mood of the country was, why do we pay taxes into these structures? Why are we hamstrung? Why aren't we a free people? So what the two parties would do is that they would...
Why aren't we a free people? For making sure that, like, food aid is going out to impoverished countries? Are you shitting me?
Run primaries, you'd have populist candidates, and you'd pre-commit the populist candidates to support the candidates who won the primaries. As long as that took place and you had two candidates that were both acceptable to the international order, that is, that they aren't going to rethink NAFTA or NATO or what have you.
Bro, what are you talking, NAFTA? They can't rethink NAFTA? It's just a trade deal. Trump did rethink NAFTA, I think, at the end of his 4 years. Well, he didn't, but other people rethought NAFTA on his behalf. He's pretending that there's like this all-powerful deep state that doesn't allow anybody to make any decisions without them or some other stupid shit. Link up with reality again, I'm begging you. It's nonsense.
We called that democracy. And so democracy was the illusion of choice, what's called magician's choice, where the choice is not actually, pick a card, any card, but somehow the magician makes sure that the card that you pick is the one that he knows.
That's democracy? Democracy is a magic trick? Or a trick generally, is what you're telling me? Democracy is a trick? It's not real? What brought him to this conclusion? Bro, what is happening? I've never heard him speak before. This is my first time.
In that situation, you have magician's choice in the primaries, and then you'd have the duopoly field two candidates, either of which was acceptable, and you could actually afford to hold an election. And the populace would vote, and that way the international order wasn't put at risk every 4 years, because you can't have alliances.
International order, once again, the deep state.
That are subject to the whim of the people in plebiscites. So under that structure, everything was going fine until 2016. And then the first candidate ever to not hold any position in the military nor position in government in the history of the Republic to enter the Oval Office, Donald Trump, broke through the primary structure. So,
yeah, which proves that there wasn't a deep state or whatever. It really was democracy. People really were allowed to, like, run for office. You know what I discovered, though? By and large, people that are not, like, people that aren't kind of mainstream politicians like Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, even Michael Bloomberg, they're just not popular in the United States, I came to find. They're just not. People do not like them. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. People that are not like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and stuff, people just don't like that. They want a Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or whatever. Really. It surprised me when I saw this play out, but I realized it when I watched Hillary Clinton get absolutely destroy Bernie Sanders in the primaries. And now, I know that there was some funny business about her getting the questions ahead of time and stuff like that, but that does not and could not possibly account for the absolute tidal wave of support that Hillary Clinton got on Super Tuesday after, when Bernie Sanders was running against her. She was just more popular, plain and simple. And it's the same with Joe Biden. He was just more popular in the country than Bernie Sanders or any other kind of left-leaning, popular politician that supports like popular positions, which is different from populist. Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton types are just more popular, bottom line. And that's why they kept winning elections. Now, Donald Trump came in and did, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, exactly what Hitler did to get people excited over things. That is, like, we're watching it happen in real time. That's how Hitler got people, like, whipped into a blood frenzy. Precisely what Trump did. Anyway, when somebody like that comes along, a right-wing populist, which is not the same as somebody that likes things that are popular, inevitably they're going to take power and it's going to throw the country into fascism. That's just how it's worked for millennia at this point, honestly. Anyway, Eric Weinstein. I almost said Harvey Weinstein, but no, this is Eric, I believe. He's just incorrect about how this functions. It's not that there's some deep state trying to prevent people from running or whatever. Those people are just more popular. They just are. With people like my grandma, she absolutely loved Hillary Clinton. She trusted Joe Biden. You want to know who's voting for these people? My grandma. She's voting for them. My grandpa worked on the railroad for like 50 years. Voted Democrat his whole life because he was in the union, if no other reason. They voted for them. Middle of the road, regular old Democrats. Anyway, there's no deep state. It's just the popular position, whether you like that or not.
So then there was a full court press. Okay, we only have one candidate that's acceptable to the international order. Donald Trump will be under constant pressure that he's a loser, he's a wild man, he's an idiot.
Well, I mean, he is all of those things. I didn't need like news to tell me that. I could see how fucking stupid he is. Could you not see how fucking stupid Donald Trump was? Really? That tells me something about you, honestly.
And he's under the control of the Russians. And then he was going to be a 20-1 underdog.
Okay, I don't know about the underdog thing. I don't even remember what was happening in 2016, but he was under the control of the Russians. I don't know if you guys remember this, but let's go all the way back. Donald Trump was supported by Russia. Russia helped him win the election. That is absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, true. Now, was he involved? We can discuss that. But he was most definitely helped by Russia. And the entire intelligence community told him that. He knew that. And he meets with Putin for the first time, knowing that Putin helped him win his election. And he says this in front of everybody.
People came to me. Dan Coates came to me.
Dan Coates was like one of his head intelligence community operatives.
And some others, they said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
He betrayed the United States in this moment. It was like a groundbreaking moment. I know, like, if you weren't there to watch this, like, unfold before your eyes, it may not mean as much, but it was a moment in history when everybody believed that the president had just betrayed the United States on behalf of a foreign government.
I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful.
Dude is like, all right, Russia is an adversary to the United States, not because I want that, because they want that. Russia is an adversary because Russia wants to be one. Russia is hostile to the United States. They do hostile things all the time. And here we have a president of the United States saying that the United States is not trustworthy. The United States, intelligence community whose job it is to research this, they are not trustworthy. Russia and Putin are more trustworthy.
His denial today, and what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come.
You're talking about the Mueller investigation. Mueller discovered beyond a shadow of a doubt that Russia absolutely was helping Donald Trump. You know why all this came up in the first place? Operation Crossfire Hurricane. In the United States, there are Russian operatives. Just like in Russia, there are American operatives. And in China, there are Russian operatives. I mean, every country has operatives in every other country. That's just how it works. It's finding them, figuring out which ones they are is the challenge. Well, the FBI and the NSA monitor, like they phone tap them. They listen to the conversations that they have, spy on them and stuff, And they're spying on them, the FBI is, on these known Russian operatives. And Don Jr. calls. Why the f*** would Don Jr. be calling a Russian operative? That's weird. How does he even know this guy? I don't know who these people are. Anyway, it wasn't just Don Jr. and it wasn't just once. Like a bunch of people from like Trump's orbit were calling Russian operatives and working with them directly. On top of that, Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign manager, was a Russian politician before. Seriously. Betrays the U.S. for Russia. I mean, it's clear as day that something shady was going on here. And if you don't see that, then you're a fool. The Mueller report was done by a Republican FBI agent to analyze what Trump's level of involvement was. And he determined that Trump absolutely was colluding with Russia. He was working with Russia. But at the end of the report, he said he didn't believe Trump should be indicted because he didn't believe that you could indict a sitting president.
People came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case.
They indicted 11 Russians that lived in Russia for like hacking and working with organizations to like release secret files and stuff like that to help Donald Trump win the election. They indicted 11 people, and Trump was like, it's an incredible offer. Putin offered to let the investigators come over and interview the 11.
Come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer.
The fact that he's not admitting that Putin is not operating in good faith is ridiculous.
Our relationship with Russia has never been worse, thanks to many years of U.S. foolishness and stupidity.
This is what Trump said. By the way, I think this is a clip from Rachel Maddow, who kind of broke this whole thing down. Trump said on the twit, our relationship with Russia has never been worse, thanks to many years of U.S. foolishness. He's blaming the bad relationship not on the old Soviet Union, but on the United States. McCarthyists, the people on the House of Un-American Activities Committee from the 50s, Trump would have been locked up by now. He would have been in prison, rotting in a cell. He would have been buried under the jail by now if we had been in the 50s when he said this.
And now, the rigged witch hunt. Today asked, does he think Putin bears any responsibility?
Yes, I do. I hold both countries responsible. I think that the United States has been foolish. I think that the probe is
the Russia investigation, like Mueller's investigation. At the bottom, you see the chyron says shockwaves as Trump doubts U.S. intelligence. It wasn't just shockwaves. Like, even that is an understatement. It was dumbfoundedness that we just witnessed a U.S. president betray the United States live on air. We watched him betray the U.S., and this isn't even close to the worst thing that he did. I can't believe that he won an election again. After this alone, after January 6th, after all of it, I cannot believe it.
Disaster for our country. I think it's kept us apart. It's kept us separated. There was no collusion at all.
There absolutely was collusion beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Everybody knows it. People are being brought out to the fore. So far that I know, virtually none of it related to the campaign. And they're going to have to try really hard to find somebody that did relate to the campaign. That was a clean campaign. I beat Hillary Clinton easily.
President Putin, did you want President Trump to win the election?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because he talked about bringing the Russian relationship back to normal, Putin said.
Yeah, we showed you.
Oh, this is an old. I thought this was a Rachel Maddow clip. Yeah, I guess this is an old compilation. Where is the Maddow clip? Oh, here it is. We watched him betray the United States, and it was horrifying, straight up horrifying to watch. I don't know how Republicans continued to support him after that, knowing their like adversarial position to Russia generally.
All right, first, deep breath.
My grandma used to watch Rachel Maddow. I loved her more than anything, and she died in 2022. So in her honor, I also like watching Rachel Maddow. I'm not sure I actually do, but you know, with respect to my grandma.
Not that deep. This was a big day. Let's just talk about what has just happened. And let's talk about it with the full and complete expectation that more of it may yet happen while we are talking tonight. Things are at a boil. Things are going fast now. This is a time when everybody needs to pay attention. Here's why we have covered this story so intensely. Since it first became clear that there was something wrong and illicit and unexplained about the relationship between this particular foreign adversary and the unlikely rise of this unlikely politician who shocked everyone by winning the last US presidential election. I mean, there was no explicable reason why, as a presidential candidate, he would step with such excruciating care to avoid ever saying anything remotely negative or critical about Russia and its president. There was no explicable reason why he would dig out of the vault a campaign chairman who had not worked in American politics for more than a generation, but he had spent more than the past decade doing Vladimir Putin's political bidding overseas in the former Soviet Union.
Paul Manafort, dude went to prison for like 25 years for his involvement in like connecting Russia with the Trump campaign. Seriously.
All right, first, deep breath.
Did it just restart? Why did it restart? That's weird. Oh, because it was short. Yeah, that was just one example. Like Rachel Maddow did this whole big breakdown of it. I thought I had the whole thing, but I guess not. Anyway, Trump betrayed the United States on Russia's behalf. I don't want, like, we're talking about Chris Williamson here, but I don't want this to be memory hold. I don't want this to be forgotten. I don't want them to rewrite history to make us forget that Trump absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, most definitely colluded with Russia, lied, and betrayed the United States on their behalf.
Donald Trump will be under constant pressure that he's a loser, he's a wild man, he's an idiot, and he's under the control of the Russians. And then he
absolutely is and was, beyond a doubt,
going to be a 20-1 underdog, and then he wins. And there was no precedent for this. They learned their lesson. You cannot afford to have candidates who are not acceptable to the international order and continue to have these alliances. This isn't.
Oh, please, dude. Everything is a conspiracy with him. Like, his belief was proven wrong. People who are not like part of the quote unquote establishment, they can win elections. In fact, they do all the time, honestly. Like, not just the presidential election. That one isn't even as important as the national, like the federal and state level and municipal level elections that take place every year, every 2, every 4 years. That is really important to pay attention to, maybe more than the president. And those people, like a lot of them go against the establishment grain, if you will. A lot of them are oppositional to people like Joe Biden. In fact, some of these people say some absolutely crazy unhinged shit, and they're allowed to win elections. The fact that he's pretending this is just low. It's just low. Like, really.
It's an unsolved problem. So I don't have a particular dog in this fight. I, one, believe in democracy.
Totally. He just denigrated democracy, didn't he? Didn't he just tell us, well, democracy's where, like, a magician is playing a trick on you?
I also believe in international agreements. And it is the job of the State Department, the intelligence community, and the Defense Department to bring this problem in front of the American people and say, we have a problem. You don't know everything that's going on. And if you start voting in populist candidates, you're going to end up knocking out load-bearing walls that you don't understand.
Yes, absolutely. That is 100% true. Well said. I like that, actually. You're going to knock out load-bearing walls that you don't understand.
But Trump was in office for 4 years. Did he turn the entire table upside down?
He risked.
Yes, he absolutely did. He made a complete mess out of everything, actually, and it took Biden coming in to try to fix it. I know this is another thing that these people are trying to memory hole, trying to rewrite and pretend that this wasn't the case, but it absolutely was. Do you guys remember what the economy looked like after Donald Trump? I mean, sure, you can say it was because of COVID, I suppose, and I get on board with you there a little bit. Sure, it was because of COVID, but it wasn't solely because of COVID. There was more to it than just that, obviously. Additionally, Donald Trump had career politicians, career federal employees and stuff in the system that kept it running, despite him. And I don't think he really knocked out any load-bearing walls because he didn't do any major changes that the Republican Party didn't want him to make anyway. He kind of governed, a little bit to the right. His rhetoric was far right in his first term, but he governed to the right in favor of corporations and stuff like that. Run of the mill, mostly. We're in a different situation now.
Doing that.
Say more.
You remember that there was this uncomfortable accommodation given to the Central Intelligence Agency at the beginning of his actual term. There was a question about was he going to question I have a very different point of view than most of my friends who are also, at least nominally Democrats, which is.
He claims that he is a Democrat? Are you shitting me right now? Why are you even pretending?
It was a very immoral thing that was done to him. He was asked the question, will you pre-commit that you will accept the results of an election? Now, if you were going to rig an election, you would ask somebody that.
This is a fucking joke. Are you for real right now? You know why he was asked that question? Because dictators throughout history question election results. That's how it's always worked. Now, you can go around and look at all of the ballots yourself, send them through the counting machines, count them directly with your own two hands if you want to verify the actual winner of the election. And in fact, that did happen. In Arizona, they recounted by hand a Trump organization called Cyber Ninja, a pro-Trump organization called Cyber Ninja, recounted by hand over the course of weeks, and found Biden actually won by more votes than initially thought. If you understand the first thing about how the election system works, you wouldn't have questioned it. But if you question it, it's super easy to follow the trail back and find the answer. And we did. Now, the question was, are you going to destroy democracy by claiming that you lost when you didn't, and you know that you didn't? That was the real question. And Donald Trump knew that he fairly lost the 2020 election. He knew that he lost it. Hang on, let me find evidence for that. Here we go. This is the one I was looking for right here.
Right.
They say that I don't believe it's this much, but it doesn't have to. I lost by I didn't lose.
But we caught you there, didn't we? You knew that you lost.
They say I lost, Joe. They say I lost by 22,000 votes.
He knew that he lost. He knew he lost. And he continued to lie. He continued to make shit up and erode democracy knowingly and intentionally because he doesn't give a fuck about the democracy. And that's a foreboding sign for our future. So anyway, the question was asked of him because it's a knowable question. Did you win or did you lose? We can know the answer to that. So the question was, when we find out definitively if you won or lost, are you going to accept that or are you going to continue to lie to us? You're going to continue to erode democracy for no fucking reason. You're not going to, this isn't going to get you the presidency. You aren't going to take over in 2020. You're not going to take over in 2020. It's not how this works. So are you going to choose to just destroy democracy just because you want to? Or are you going to leave it alone? And the answer is he wants to destroy democracy for no reason at all. So anyway, the point is Brett Weinstein is once again warping. I'm sorry, not Harvey either. Eric Weinstein warping this completely out of proportion. This is not representative of reality in any way. And he knows it isn't.
Immoral thing that was done to him. He was asked the question, will you pre-commit that you will accept the results of an election? Now, if you were going to rig an election.
I mean, The assumption is that you're going to verify that it's real first, of course.
You would ask somebody that to begin with, and that's part of the game. And he says, well, we'll see.
That's part of the game. It's part of the game that's being played. Come on, man. This is disgusting, honestly. This is bottom of the barrel shit. Nobody should ever trust this guy ever again after he said this shit right here.
You have this very strange thing going on where democracy is the greatest threat to democracy. Now, how can
No, it's not.
that be? It's two different concepts of democracy. One concept of democracy is the will of the people. You hold plebiscites, and even if you do it with an electoral college or political parties, the idea is that the people are elected, by and of and for the people. The other idea of democracy is that democracy is about institutions that sprang from democracy once upon a time, and that those institutions have to be kept strong. Those are two completely different concepts that are overloaded to the same word.
What the hell does that mean? Two different concepts that are overloaded to the same word? I'm not sure what he means by that. This just sounds like complete trash.
Under that circumstance, we have a paradox, which is how do we keep the electorate from overturning the type A democracy from overturning the type B democracy?
God, he's pretending to be some kind of an intellectual when every word out of his mouth is complete trash. There is nothing intellectual happening here.
And that's the unsolved problem that they will not bring in front of the people. So
what the hell does that even mean? I'm sorry, one more time.
Turning the type A democracy from overturning the type B democracy.
What does that mean even? What are you talking about? Like, this is complete nonsense. Here's how Jordan Peterson does it. When they kind of a little bit like roughly cobble together something that could maybe make a little bit of sense, even though that's not what like Jordan Peterson meant by it anyway, or what not Harvey Weinstein, or what Eric Weinstein meant or anything. They feel smart because they think they just like deciphered some puzzle. It's nonsense. He's just speaking nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. Never did.
And that's the unsolved problem that they will not bring in front of the people. So what you have is a situation in which I believe that there are many people in Washington, D.C. who think that Donald Trump cannot become president because he can now go for broke. He's also not going to try to run for re-election. He's relatively unconstrained. He's wealthy. He's
completely unconstrained because he can do anything and be completely exempt from the law. He is above the law. He is a president that is above the law now, officially. No constraints on him at all. He doesn't need to pardon himself because he there's nothing that he could be charged with to be pardoned. So can a president pardon himself is a moot question now. I mean, that shit's like really disturbing. And Brett Weinstein, God, I'm going to get it. Eric Weinstein thinks this is a good thing, I guess.
He's learned how to play a lot of these games.
And maybe got a little bit of an axe to grind as well after the last 6 years.
No kidding. And he's a wild card. There are three people who are doing amazing versions of the drunken boxing game. Kanye, who's probably the first one to really fail, Elon, and Donald Trump.
The drunken boxing game? Are we talking Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the NES? What do you mean by that?
And all three of them tried to do something where you couldn't pin them down. You couldn't figure out like what they were going to do next. And that's what the order is keeps trying to do. Like,
I have no idea what he's talking about. I know exactly what Donald Trump's going to do next. I'm just horrified by it. What do you mean we don't know what he's going to do next? Of course we do. I mean, he comes up with these stupid fucking ideas like invading Greenland, and then he attaches to it like a dog to a bone. He won't let it go. I can pretty accurately predict like what Donald Trump is going to do based on what he's saying right now.
Commit to this. Will you say this? Will you mouth these words? And none of these people would play the game.
Donald Trump, he's acting like a dictator right now. By the time this clip comes out, it may be in name as well as status, but he is ignoring Congress, who has the power of the purse, and he has taken power from Congress. Donald Trump has assumed the role of Congress. Congress doesn't need to exist anymore. The Senate and the House, they're irrelevant now because Trump is writing the laws through executive orders, which is not how they were supposed to be used. And he controls the power of the purse, which was Congress's job, not the president's, very specifically. So he's just cut one branch of the government out. That is dictatorship. Now the judicial branch, the third branch of government, has come in and they've said, you can't defy this order. You know, Congress has the power of the purse. You need to respect that and like not halt all spending or whatever. And an Obama appointed judge just came out and said, you're going to face arrest if you don't follow the law. If you don't reinstate spending, reinstate U.S. aid and everything else, you're going to face arrest. Now we get to see what happens when Trump comes up against the judicial branch. There are checks and balances on every branch of government by every branch of government. The congressional check is gone. He erased it. Now we find out if he's going to erase the judicial check also. And if he does, it is truly, fully a dictatorship. There is no, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is a dictatorship. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm very confident that they're going to ignore the court order and it's going to descend into dictatorship. I pretty much guarantee that's what's going to happen.
That's what the order is keeps trying to do. Like, will you commit to this? Will you say this? Will you mouth these words? And none of these people would play the game. I find this all. You ever see Emmanuel Augustus, this boxer who actually, I think Floyd Mayweather said it was his toughest opponent because he wouldn't fight in the style that anyone could recognize. Probably the most
unpredictable.
Yeah, and the most entertaining boxer I've ever seen in my life. I mean, just check out any highlight reel and you won't even believe this is real. It doesn't seem possible. So that's what Donald Trump is. He's a guy who's got formulas that confuse people like Sam Harris.
Okay, no, he doesn't have formulas that confuse people. He just confuses people. There are no formulas there. First of all, and second, people pretty much have it down. They know what to expect from Trump. He's not an enigma who's like this ultra intelligent whatever. It's like almost embarrassing. In fact, it is. It is embarrassing watching this guy. My God, I don't know what other word to use but swoon. He's swooning over Donald Trump. It's like painfully embarrassing to watch when he's completely misrepresenting reality. Like, this is not how the world works at all. And I don't understand how, people can't even think this way. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Sam and I have been debating this for years. I think that Trump is an incredibly intelligent man and that there's incredible method in his tweet.
No. He's dumb as dog shit. There is no incredible anything to Trump. He's just a fucking moron. That's it. He is a bottom of the barrel con man. Nothing good or intelligent or smart about him, nothing to learn from him or whatever. He's just a fucking moron that likes taking advantage of people. People say, we should have a businessman in office. We should have a guy that knows how to whatever. He knows how to, get things done and negotiate. Trump doesn't know how to negotiate. He knows how to take advantage of people. A negotiation requires give and take to be successful. Trump only understands take. He only understands fucking people over for everything that they own. That's it. And that is why the employees that Trump hires as contractors to work on his buildings and stuff, that's why a lot of the time they don't even get paid. He doesn't pay them. He hires small companies who can't wait to get a contract with a big real estate agency like Donald Trump's. He hires them. They do the work. He doesn't pay him. And what are they going to do? What's the recourse? Go to court and fight him, spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars maybe. In fact, maybe spend more than the job was even worth fighting lawyers who are top tier, who he has on retainer. These companies just go under. They can't afford it. So anyway, that's what Donald Trump does. He fucks people out of everything that they own because he likes to, because he enjoys it.
Of old, you could put them into a data set and you say that there are 5 or 6 different types of tweets and that the left falls for every one of them every time.
Oh, so he is predictable then, is what you're saying.
So in this situation, you have a question. How is it that Donald Trump and RFK Jr. cannot possibly reach the Oval Office and we have to have a candidate who is pre-subscribed to perpetuating these institutions, these agreements, and these orders? And there's only 1 out of 3 who has that character, and that person has not won a primary. Right now, we have no idea who's running the United States of America.
We don't? It was Joe Biden at this moment. Everybody was well aware of who was running the United States. It's just a propaganda line that like far-right nutcases like to say. Everybody knows that Joe Biden was running the country. You know who was actually running the country under Joe Biden? The administrative state. Like people, just federal employees, political appointees. That's who has always run the country. The president isn't in like the Department of Defense telling generals like when to start training troops or whatever shit. That's not how it has ever worked, ever. The president appoints somebody to the Department of Defense to make decisions that represent what he would want. And so on occasion, he comes in and he tells the Department of Defense, I want you to run training drills on this or that or whatever. That is what the president does. Makes basic decisions sometimes. In fact, the president's job isn't even strenuous. You know the hardest part of his job? Doing this, writing his signature. The executive orders that the president signs aren't even written by the president. It's some intern somewhere that's writing this shit. The president's job is literally just to sign things and say yes or no. That's it. It couldn't possibly be a simpler job. It's stressful as hell. You can find yourself in a position where hundreds of thousands or even millions of lives are in your hands. You will decide who lives or dies. That is some stressful shit right there. But it's not hard. It's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. And when you have no conscience like Donald Trump, it makes it that much easier. So we know who's running the country. We know who ran it under Joe Biden.
Right now, we have no idea who's running the United States of America. I just came here in a Tesla, and I did not steer once. And I would say America is in full self-driving mode, and we don't know what the AI is that's running the Oval Office, and that's really bizarre.
Yes, we do. It's not comparable in any way because the appointees that work for the president, that work under like the Department of Defense or whatever other, U.S. aid and stuff, we know who those people are, and we intentionally hire those people after vetting their resumes and things. It's not like we're just like, we have no clue who these people are. We can't find out or anything. That's not how it works at all. And he has to know that. I just can't believe that people view it this way. You know why I want to cover this kind of thing more often? Because it's a distortion of reality. And in my opinion, an intentional distortion of reality. Like, he knows this isn't how it works. He must know. Most of these people, they know. Ben Shapiro, he knows he's full of shit, but they're distorting it in such a way that it makes it seem more legitimate. It makes him seem more trustworthy, even though it's a complete lie. Like Donald Trump saying, we're going to rebuild Gaza, and the United States is going to own it. We're going to take care of it. And the Palestinians, they're going to be happy that we rebuilt Gaza. The reality of it comes out a little later. Next day, he says Palestinians are going to have to get out. All 1.8 million of them are going to have to leave. That's like saying, I'm going to rebuild Manhattan, and every single Manhattan resident has to leave. Where do they go? Doesn't matter. I don't care. It's the same size. I mean, same population almost. Well, it was the same population. There were 2.3 million before Israel went in there and did their thing. There are about 2 million residents of Manhattan, and it's roughly the same size, the landmass is, give or take. I think the Gaza Strip's a little bit bigger. So Trump is telling people to just get out. He says, well, they'll be able to come back. Palestinians live there. Everybody live there. And now he says, Palestinians aren't coming back. It's a distortion of reality to soften the blow that is inevitably coming.
Given that we have something like 6 minutes to make a decision about nuclear launches, we have no idea what the United States government in the executive branch actually is.
Yeah, we do. We did at the time. We fully understood who was running the country. Biden was not completely out of his head. He just wasn't. People can say that he is until they're blue in the face, but he wasn't. He was not out of his head. The entire country sat there and watched him get through how long was that? Like 2 hours? A 2-hour debate. Sat there and listened to him debate for 2 hours, and he can't find a word for about 30 seconds. And suddenly he's just like, his brain is mush, and he can't, he's just out of his head completely. Did you hear the other 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds, or what? He was not out of his head. I refuse to give this ground. He wasn't.
But it can't be Joe Biden.
Every time it seems that an election has happened over the last decade or so, it's always been, this one is different. This is the most important. This is the most important. Is there something different about the one that we're about to go into? How should we think about this election?
As World War II unraveling, the order that has produced the illusion of peace for this length of time. Imagine that you were, let's say in the 2000s, that you had this thing called the Great Moderation. And there was a story that we had finally banished volatility from the markets. None of that was true. What you were doing was you were going farther and farther into a regime without understanding that sooner or later the Jenga tower has to collapse.
I don't understand how he got here. I feel like this dude is so completely full of shit, and it's hard to imagine that he doesn't know that he's lying, right? Like my wife talks about, she's a lawyer now. She finished law school. She's officially now a lawyer, which is pretty incredible. Anyway, she talks about like Ben Shapiro, how he's a lawyer, and he was for like a long, long time. He knows what he's saying is a lie. He cannot possibly not know that what he's saying is a lie. As my wife says, she knows how to read bills just like he does, and his interpretation of the bills is a flat out lie. No lawyer would ever interpret a bill that way. And lawyers interpreting bills in similar ways is really, really important. They have to be able to like trust that they're all, aware of the implications of certain bills, that they can all, bills have to be basically trustworthy and repeatable. Like you have to be able to trust that these bills will be interpreted in the exact same way. And Ben Shapiro misinterprets them seemingly intentionally. Like I don't see how it could be any other way.
The order that was put in place at the end of World War II, none of its architects are still alive. Very few pieces
The order put in place. Is he talking about what? The Geneva Conventions, the United Nations? I don't know. I mean, those things, I believe they existed before World War II a little bit, but I don't know what else he could be talking about here.
of information were passed down about what it actually is or how it functions because it's secret. And
What is secret? What are you talking about? There's nothing secret.
I think what you can say is that we are now living on the fumes built from that victory. That is what is unraveling. You're about to head towards a multipolar world where the game theory in a dyadic game of two players doesn't look remotely like the game theory in a 5 or 10 player game. So Kamala.
Okay, he's misusing game theory, it sounds to me. Does he know what game theory even is? Hang on, let me do it. Game theory doesn't have much to do with games, FYI. Game theory is a study of mathematical models of strategic interactions. It has applications in many fields of social science and is used extensively in economics, logic, systems science, and computer science. He's a mathematician. He must know what game theory is, right? Okay, let's step back one more time.
Doesn't look remotely like the game theory in a 5 or 10 player game. So
why is he talking about games here? I don't understand what the hell that even means.
Kamala is essentially the youngest boomer possible.
She's a boomer? Are you okay? Whatever.
And she's tied to the last silent generation president we'll ever have, which was a bizarre thing to begin with. And she's pre-committed to trying to continue that order in the guise of a alternatively woke, Wall Street friendly, Indian black, folksy, I don't even know what she is. To quote the great Chris Williamson, she's a meme of a meme of a meme. That was from...
No, she's black. She's half black and she's half Indian. You don't know what she is? Have you just not looked this up?
Our last talk. And I would say this is probably the most insane election we've ever seen by a comfortable margin. I would say
it's insane because Kamala Harris is in it, is what he's saying here. Donald Trump is literally deconstructing the Constitution as we speak right now. And you think that Kamala Harris is the problem? Nobody should take him seriously moving forward. Nobody. They should view him as they view RFK. Unfortunately, people are taking his stupid ass seriously too. Yeah, I don't like insulting people, but you get the idea.
Say that there's
You know,
no
I'm
one in
watching. I'm
second
sorry.
place.
You know why I'm watching this in the first place? Genetically modified skeptic came to hang out recently, not too long ago. He came over to the house and we chatted for a while, and he told me about this video. I was like, we got to watch this.
I can't think of another election that is even close to this bizarre, including the attempted assassination on Donald Trump.
Yeah, there's so many things all coalescing at the same time, from what's happening with the media to AI to discontent to fake news and cheap fakes and
cheap fakes? I've never heard of that. Is that anything like a cheap from Mario? Like the little fish?
constructed. Did you?
Sorry. Fake news was a fake story. If you look at the Google Trends, fake news was a tiny story during the 2016 cycle that blew up immediately afterwards. It was the placeholder.
You know why? Do you know why fake news, quote unquote, blew up the way that it did? I'll tell you why. Because Donald Trump was following the same mold that Hitler laid out. It's called Lügenpresse in Germany. Lügenpresse. Fake, lying press is what it meant. This whole thing that's happening right now is not new. This is a tale as old as time, repeated by many others, Hitler included.
As the intelligence community or the blob figured out what it was going to do next to try to take control of the international order, you have to realize that that's the first real surprise in presidential history where they lost control of the process.
Well, I've got a surprise for you. I told you not to watch this before we get to do this.
I actually listened.
Did you?
That son of a bitch. Why would he do that? What a jerk. He just ruined this guy's whole thing.
Well, it's
I told you not to do it.
I know. It's like pouring sugar on a picnic to keep ants away.
Okay. So
are you the ant in this scenario and Chris Williamson is the sugar?
For the people who haven't seen it, we'll just do a quick recap.
MSNBC was exposed today for yet another set of lies. They deceptively edited together this video of different Joe Rogan comments to make it appear that he was singing the praises of Kamala Harris.
Okay, I have not seen that. I don't know why anybody would believe that about Joe Rogan. He's very clearly not a Democrat. It never was, honestly. He was a progressive at one point, but he hasn't been for a long time. And for the record, love that gray stripe in Tulsi Gabbard's hair. That is actually the shit. I like that a lot. She is most definitely a Russian asset. She used to be a Democrat. She is now like a hard right Republican nutcase. But the more time goes on, the clearer it becomes how captured she is by Russia. It's clear as day that she's only doing Putin's bidding. And she shouldn't be anywhere near a position of power. Nowhere near it. She's completely untrustworthy. And she should have her security clearance revoked if she hasn't already. She's a bad, untrustworthy person.
She's going to win. No, she's not. She can win. She is a strong woman. She is a person who served overseas twice.
I thought this was about Tulsi Gabbard. Did Kamala Harris even serve overseas? She wasn't in the military. What are you talking about? This isn't real.
She in a medical unit. She was a congresswoman for 8 years.
Yeah.
She is a person of color. She's everything you want. She's going to win.
No, she's not.
She can win. They just want no Trump, no matter what.
What do you make of that?
Okay, I'll tell you what I make of that. It's split up and cut into pieces. How can I trust that this is even real? Where did he get this? Did he get this from some QAnon Telegram channel, or did he get it from MSNBC TikTok? 'Cause I'm having trouble believing that this is from MSNBC at all, honestly. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it.
That's the most brazen cutting together of something that millions of people have seen.
They don't really...
Who is they?
Whatever it is not really trying to fool you. It's trying to instruct you.
What? What does that mean?
You're allowed to see the truth. They can make it difficult to find the truth, but it's hard to shut up Joe Rogan. They've settled for something else.
I don't understand.
Which is Think about MSNBC and CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times,
Okay, I'm thinking about him.
Reuters, AP, etc., as a set of instructions for how to keep your job. You're allowed to disagree. We'll set the boundaries of the disagreement. We'll set the topics of the disagreement. You may not even watch any of these things, but we'll make sure that it filters through to the people that you are watching so that they're outraged. And you're given a choice. You can choose to understand whatever you want, and you can choose to say whatever you want. But if you say what you understand to be true, you can know what the consequences are. You may.
What the hell are you talking about? It is so wild to me to listen to somebody describe a completely alternate reality that it like does not represent the reality that we all live in at all. It's complete fiction. It is insane.
You may lose your marriage. You may lose your job. You're
going to lose your marriage and your job for telling the truth about shit. I've already shown a couple of examples of how this guy, in my personal opinion, outright lied. Knew that he was not telling the truth and intentionally told it to the audience anyway, despite that fact. From that moment on, nobody should ever take them seriously, ever again, ever. This is another example of a situation in which we should not take them seriously.
Lose your friends. And so, in essence, we all know that if you question the war in Ukraine, or if you say, look, I detest Donald Trump, but I'm voting for him because what's going on in the Democratic Party is unholy and insane.
Unholy?
You're signing up for whatever Thanksgiving dinner we have planned for you. We're talking to your uncle. We're talking to your spouse. And
God, he's presenting this as though Democrats have created a ministry of truth, 1984 style. Do you know that the book 1984 was written in 1948 by George Orwell? He wrote it shortly after like the Nazi Germany shit went down. And I can only imagine that they were influenced by each other. I don't actually know that for absolute fact, but I know that Germany had a ministry of culture and a ministry of truth and all that other shit. So it would surprise me if it weren't directly one-to-one based on, Germany. Anyway, 1984 described like a real life situation is my point. Like something that really actually did happen. Something that took place that people had to deal with. So really what Brett Weinstein is saying here is Democrats are creating a Nazi Germany. Like Democrats are Nazis, what he's saying. I don't think this is even delusion from him. I feel like I keep calling him Brett. I mean Eric. It's Eric Weinstein. Anyway, I don't feel like it's delusion. I feel like he knows exactly what he's saying. He's saying it intentionally to deceive people, in my personal opinion. Anyway, tell me what you think about it. This dude's just bottom of the barrel low.